wanted to share something with you guys today called tapping. It's gonna seem a little bit out there if you're not in like the crunchy circles, but just give it a try. It's been used for people with PTSD with really great effects. There's a lot of research on it. You can absolutely go find that. But tapping is kind of a method of getting through these really, really difficult moments. And it is a way to connect your mind and your body and center yourself back to where you are so that you can focus on what you need going forward. So I actually started doing tapping when I was very, very young. And so because of that, it feels like more of an intuitive thing for me than I feel like it would be for other people. So I looked up the steps on the internet, and I thought it was really interesting the way it broke it down. So the first step that it has is identify the issue. So for this, I don't recommend picking something that's like a complete phobia or a situation that feels so intensely emotionally overwhelming that you like can't think about what we're doing. So it might be helpful to choose something that's a little bit more current and a little bit easier to digest. So for example, you could think about maybe you have an interview coming up that you're nervous for. You could think about you have a first date that you're nervous for, or maybe you have been feeling really sad lately and you don't know why, and then you start questioning yourself. So there's just some things like that, or maybe you have a issue with a friend that you're thinking a lot about. So think about something in your life that is just a little bit uncomfortable. That's the first one, is identify an issue. Yeah. So think about that issue for yourself. And don't go too far down that path, but just kind of identify it. If you can give it a name, even just a simple one. If you want to give it a literal name like Bob, you can do that. If you want to give it an emotion name like anger, you can do that. Just give it a name. And then we'll move on to testing the intensity of that. What is that feeling? How big is that feeling? Is that feeling at a 1, like it's very slight, doesn't really interfere with your day? Or is it closer to a 10? So find a place on that scale. Where is that emotion on that scale? Does it feel really overwhelming, or is it really small, or somewhere in between? So pick a number that feels about right. And this doesn't have to be super specific. Don't panic about picking the right number. Just a general guideline is good. And then we'll move on to what they called the setup. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a statement for ourselves. And this statement, it has 2 parts. It's acknowledging the issue, and it's accepting yourself despite the problem. So the first one, acknowledging the issue. This isn't a statement about other people. This is a statement about you and how you're feeling. So for example, if I have a hard time in restaurants, right? Restaurants make me really uncomfortable. I get very overwhelmed by the noise. I might say, I feel very overwhelmed by restaurants. I know that I feel very overwhelmed by restaurants, right? And then the second portion is accepting yourself despite the problem. So sometimes you can accept the problem, and that'll kind of help you accept yourself, but sometimes that doesn't feel natural. So accepting yourself despite the problem. So if I say, I know that I feel very overwhelmed in restaurants, but that's okay because I can make a different choice, right? Or, but that's okay because I can get through hard moments. Or, but that's okay, just as a statement, but that's okay, right? Any of those are really good. So that's one example. So as you come up with this statement for yourself, acknowledge the issue and then accept yourself despite the problem. And once you have that little statement, we can move on to the next part. So we're going to put our statement to the side for a second, and we're going to start with the actual tapping. And I think it's called emotion feeling technique, EFT, I believe. And it's a tapping sequence. So the idea is that in some cultures, there's this idea that you have different meridians in your body of energy. We don't have to go down that route. All you need to know is that you have your body in space, and touching different parts of your body can help bring you back when you're having a hard moment and you feel like you're really in your head about something and you're really freaked out about it. So you can start by tapping the top of your head, and you can do this kind of gently. You can do it with your middle finger or your pointer finger, whatever feels good, maybe a couple fingers. So tap the top of your head and just notice how that feels. And then we're going to move down to the forehead. And tap your forehead and notice how that feels. And move right over one eye. You can pick whatever eye you want. Sometimes it's easier to do the one that, like, I'm right-handed, so I'm doing my right eye. And then to the side, kind of by your temple. And we don't need to do this too hard. Just enough to feel it. And then under the eye. And the upper lip. And the lower lip. And if any of these places, if you start tapping them and you feel a lot of things coming up and it feels like it's too much, you can absolutely skip over them. Or if they feel like a good spot you're noticing, you can take a little extra time there. And once we've done our chin, we're going to go down to our collarbone. I know you can't really see my collarbone, but it's right around here. And then this one wasn't on the list, but I've always done this, and I find it really calming, like right where your heart is. Tapping right over your heart. And then to your side. We don't need to get up in the armpit, but kind of down on the side a little bit. So that's the kind of tapping routine, moving from our head to our side here. And if that feels too complicated, don't worry, it'll get easier with time. And if that's overwhelming, I'll go into another method later. So we're going to start at the top, and we're going to acknowledge our issue, and then we're going to accept ourselves despite the problem. So I feel really overwhelmed in restaurants, but I can make a different choice. And then we'll say it again at the next place. And you can say it out loud, sometimes that helps. If you want to say it in your head, you can. And we'll move over to the next spot. And just repeat that to yourself a couple of times. Sometimes it helps to do it once in each spot. You can follow along with the tapping. I'm not going to say mine again, so you guys can have space to do yours. Down to the collarbone. And down to the chest. And to the side. And then we can repeat that a couple of times. So when you get into a moment where you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, or you have a fear, or you have some anxiety, or you're noticing a feeling that is really uncomfortable, this can be a really great way to acknowledge that and to connect back to your body. So the final step is to just take a little brief scan, and we rated our feeling before on a 1 to 10. Where does that lie now? It's okay if it's the same. It's okay if it is even, a little bit more or a little bit less. Just notice. Did that kind of bring it down a little bit? And if it did, this might be something that can really help you over time, so it might be a good thing to return back to. Yeah. So once we've noticed that, those are the steps. The first step is identify the issue. The second step is test the intensity, so that's that scale of 1 to 10. The third one is the setup, so finding a phrase that acknowledges the issue and is accepting yourself or the problem. And then the tapping as we're saying that phrase, and then noticing again how we feel. So that's one that you can do. Another thing, if that feels like too much to remember in the moment, that's totally valid. You can just take your hands and put them kind of on your shoulders like this. They don't have to be up on the shoulders, but kind of almost more on the chest. And you can do that whichever way feels more comfortable to you. It doesn't matter which hand is over the other. And you can start to tap on the opposite ones. And sometimes this just self-soothes a little bit, this tapping. And also another thing that it's doing is it's sending signals on both sides of your body to both sides of your, kind of like towards your brain. So using both sides of your body can be really grounding, and it can help recenter you. So just tapping there. Another really good one is humming. I know that's kind of the last thing that you're thinking of when you're in this space where things are really overwhelming, but humming can be really great. And so if you want to rock back and forth a little bit and hum a little bit if you have the space to do so. The humming, the reason that I suggest that is because your voice is really closely connected to your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve, I've talked about this a little bit before, your vagus nerve regulates the states of fight, flight, freeze, and rest and digest. And if you're activating your vagus nerve by humming, then typically it brings us back in closer towards that state of rest and digest. So it's okay to be in these other states, it's just sometimes not as great to get stuck in them. So sometimes, yeah, just hum a little song, just hum a little tune. You guys want me to hum you a little tune right now? I don't know, I can't see any comments right now, the way I have it set up. Let's see. You can sing too. Sometimes having the more open vocal space helps. Just see what that feels like. Yeah. So when you're being determined this week, if you run into a hard time, those are some options and opportunities for you to take advantage of, kind of coming back to yourself and seeing what the next step might be. And I think, yeah, that's everything that I had for today. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful. If you've never tried this before, let me know how it went. I'd love to hear a little bit about the comments. Yeah, if you've made it this far, maybe leave a like so I can see how many people are watching. That'd be awesome. And on that note, I hope that you all have a lovely rest of your evening, and good night.